Man, I suppose, is about as clever along his own line as the earliest birds were at flight. He's a sort of archaeopteryx of the spirit. Philosophy is an amazing tissue of really fine thinking and incredible puerile mistakes. It's like one of those rubber bones they give dogs to chew. Damn good for the mind's teeth, but as food? No bloody good at all. There's not much in number, really. Of course, it's marvelously pretty, but when you've done it all, well, that's that. I've finished number. I know all there is in that game. I want another. You can't suck the same piece of sugar forever. Your psychiatrist is an extremely good suggestionist. He could turn a saint into a satyr by mere sleight of hand. God, think of a civilization that hands over the cure of souls to toughs like that. Of course, you can't blame him. He's a decent sort on his own plane and doing his bit, but it's no use expecting a vet to mend a fallen angel. Oh, of course, I see it's nearly all tripe. That priest, the way he bows to the altar is enough to show the sort he is. The whole thing is askew, intellectually and emotionally, but, well, don't you get that echo of something not wrong? Of some experience that happened ages ago and was right and glorious? I suppose it happened to Jesus and his friends. Funny how members of your species, when they do get any sort of real insight and grasp some essential truth, like communism, nearly always go crazy with it. Funny, too, what a religious fellow that communist really is. Of course he doesn't know it, and he hates the word. Says men ought to care for man and nothing else. A moral sort of cove he is, full of oughts. Denies morality, then damns people for not being communist saints. One can feel behind nearly everything he had said a sense of being the chosen instrument of fate, of the dialectic, of what might almost as well be called God. Nearly all minds are damnably unhealthy, and so they must have something to hate. Mostly they just hate their neighbors, or their wives, or husbands, or parents, or children, but they get a much more exalted sort of excitement by hating foreigners. A nation, after all, is just a society for hating foreigners, a sort of super-hate club. Your trouble as a species is that you can't keep a hold of everything at once. Anyone who is very wide awake toward one set of facts invariably loses sight of all the other equally important sets, and you have practically no inner experience to orientate you compass-wise to the cardinal points of reality. There's no telling how far astray you'll go once you start in the wrong direction. Mechanical power, you see, is indeed vitally necessary to the full development of the human spirit, but to the subhuman spirit it is lethal. It's seeing each thing, each event, on its eternal side, instead of merely as a dated thing, seeing it as a living leaf on the tree Yggdrasil, flushed with the sap of eternity, and not merely as a plucked and dried and dated specimen in the book of history. The mental oyster opened wide and tried to swallow me into itself, and itself was just the bottomless black pit of hell. Of course that sounds silly and romantic to you, but that's what it was like. I felt myself dropping plumb into the most appalling gulf of darkness, of mental and spiritual darkness, in which there was nothing whatever but eternally unsatisfied black hate, a sort of dank atmosphere of poison in which everything I had ever cared for seemed to molder away into nastiness. God, I can feel him now. Pterodactyls had a great advantage over the old-fashioned creepy-crawly lizards, but they had their special dangers. Because they could fly, they could crash. Finally, they were outclassed by birds. Well, I'm a bird.